select New Project. Let's now change the name of the project to something like Scary Forest. And then make sure we're choosing the right template. In this case, it's 3D built-in render pipeline. Now click on the Create Project button and let's just wait for Unity to open. Right-click on the hierarchy portion of the editor, select 3D object and then terrain. Let's make sure to adjust the detail distance to the max. Let's also make sure to decrease the size of the terrain to 500 by 500. Let's select the paint terrain section of the terrain. Adjust the brush size to 208 and the opacity to 13, and let's just start painting the edges of the map. This will help giving the environment a sense of verticality and not making it feel very uniform and perfectly symmetric. Let's now move on to the center of the map, which is where the player will be spawning. Let's adjust the brush size to 189 and the opacity to 1. Let's now select the paint texture from the drop-down menu. Select Edit Terrain Layers and then Add Layer. For the purpose of this video, I will be selecting this specific grass. Let's move on to the paint detail of the terrain section and select Edit Details, Add Grass Texture. We will look for grass and then select the grass font 01. Here we can adjust the height and width of the grass. We will set it to 0.5 minimum and 1 maximum for both, and then we change the color of the grass to something a bit more similar to the current texture of the terrain. Make sure to untick the billboard section, and now let's close this and start painting. Let's change the opacity to 0.37 and the target strength to 0.5. As you probably have noticed, the grass seems to be pulled in a direction. To fix that, we need to go into the settings for the terrain and change the wind speed to something lower. We will change them to 0.1. Now that the grass has been placed, let's move on to the Paint Trees section of the terrain and click on Edit Trees and then Add Trees. If you want the final environment to be exactly what I showed in the intro, then select the ones I chose. If not, just choose whichever you like. Let's close this window and now select Mass Place Trees, change the number to something like 3500 and then click Place. Let's add the first player controller to the scene by dragging it into the hierarchy and then adjust its position to somewhere roughly in the center of the map. Let's select the camera component in the first player controller and then add component post-processing behavior script. Let's open the post-processing volume folder and then the post-processing volume, select the post-processing profile and then drag the darker into the post-processing behavior script that we just added to the camera. Let's now click on Window, Rendering and Lighting. Let's click on the environment section, let's add a skybox material, and for now let's select the Dawn Dusk skybox. Let's now scroll down to the other settings, fog, and let's enable it. Let's change its mode to linear, adjust the start and end point, and then change the color. Once that's done, let's drag into the rain prefab into the hierarchy, and do not worry if things look a bit weird right now. Let's open up the rain prefab object and then disable the rain wind zone. Let's also click on the rain prefab and on the inspector let's disable enable wind. Let's now decrease the size of the rain particles by opening up the rain prefab, selecting the rainfall particle system and decreasing the start size to something a little bit smaller. To make the scene darker, let's now select the directional light and change the intensity to something around 0.8 and the color to something more bluish so that it fits well with the fog. Right-click in the hierarchy portion of the project, select Create and then Material. Let's change the shader from Standard to Skybox and then change the color to something a little bit more dark. Let's rename the material to Night Sky and then open up the lighting window and assign the new material to the skybox. Let's adjust the color of the night sky a little bit further so that it's not just pitch black. Something that will help is usually copying the color that we use for the fog, pasting it into the tint color for the skybox, and then adjusting the exposure to something more similar to the vision that we had in mind. Let's now select the flashlight folder and select the flashlight gold. Let's drag the prefab into the hierarchy and adjust the position based on where the player is. Let's increase his range from 10 to 25, his angle from 62 to 68, and then the intensity to something like 2.5. Finally, let's click on the first player controller. In the inspector, scroll all the way down to the section called Head Bob Setup, and let's decrease that from 0.1 to 0.02. The environment is now ready.